All right, so welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. It's Tuesday night, which means it's time for another Bench Doctor hit guns with hammers. Hopefully, he doesn't hit these guns with hammers because they're really bloody old. Uh, Tonight, Scott's going to walk us through a couple of classic Colt pistols, so precursors to the 1911. You got a Colt 1903 and a Colt 1908. They're cousins, and they're gorgeous. And if you've got questions, the best way to get them answered is to be here in the Zoom. If you're not here in the Zoom, we will try to get to your questions on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching it after the fact because YouTube does not allow us to live stream actual firearms, people handling firearms on the screen. Let's see what else we got. We've got a fair number of people in the Zoom. If you're on Discord, drop your questions into the live stream channel there. And like I said, we'll try to get to your questions on the other avenues as we can. Kyle, did I miss anything?
Yes, if you are not on our LGC Discord server, feel free to join us via the link I just posted in the Zoom chat.
And it is indeed members only, so you have to be a member to come to the Zoom. You got to be a member to be on the Discord server, and we do actually check. But it's only $10 a year, so what are you waiting for? Without further ado, Scott, I want to hear all about this because I have both of these guns, and I know nothing about them.
Yeah, these are both made by Colt, and interesting guns. This little vest pocket shoots it's a 25 ACP. It looks like somebody ran a 45 ACP cartridge through the washing machine. It looks identical to a 1911 cartridge, but it's just tiny, scaled down. Pretty underpowered, but for the day, it was pretty remarkable. And it's called a vest pocket because the intent was for bankers and businessmen to be able to slip this into a vest pocket, because it's so small and thin. And then also ladies used to carry them, in those big hand muffs that they would carry. Some women would carry one of these in there for self-protection. This one is the 1908. It's called the Pocket Hammerless. The hammer is, it does have a hammer. It's on the inside. We'll show you that when I get it apart. These two guns are sort of really close cousins, John Moses Browning designs. Browning took this design to Colt. Colt didn't really want to make it, so he took it over to Europe, and FN made these. You'll see them called the Baby Browning, but FN and then a lot of companies in Spain knocked them off, and they're pretty common. You'll see them around. But with Colts eventually saw the desire, or the demand for them, so they started making them here in the States as well. The difference being with the Colts is they have this grip safety that we see later on in the 1911, and this grip safety, the trigger, and this little slide catch these are all color case hardened, which none of the other manufacturers did. And I think they stopped doing this later on. This gun was made up until the 60s or 70s, I believe. I think they did away with the grip safety, and they didn't color case harden the pieces anymore. But you'll see a lot of these almost exact clones of this gun from Europe. And they're not bad little guns. I always wanted the Colt just because of the way they're made. They're just really beautiful little guns. So I'm going to start with this one, and then we'll go into the Pocket Hammerless. This gun is not mine. I wish it was. It was loaned to me by a local member here in the club in Oregon, who goes by the name, what's his name online? Offensive name here, I think. Great guy. And he said, well, if you're going to do the little vest pocket, you got to do the Pocket Hammerless. So he dropped it by to allow me to take it apart and show you guys. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside. Just kind of get it out of my way. And one thing about this gun is it doesn't have a last round hole open. So when you're done sending all of these powerful rounds down range, the gun doesn't lock back. So it's just one thing about it. And you'll notice that the grip safety does work. So it's cocked, but I can't fire unless I press the grip safety and pull the trigger. So the fun part about these, what's weird about them is breaking them down is a little bit strange if you're used to modern firearms where you have the little pull lever or a button or something like that to take a gun apart. These don't work that way. And this design was used later on. I had an MAB a year ago. I bought this old MAB and struggled with it live on camera trying to put the thing back together, and it uses the same system as this, and I'll show you what that is. So what I like to do is, of course, I'm going to check it. It's empty. The mag is empty. Nothing in the gun. Go ahead. You can't pull the trigger either without the magazine in it. So I pull the trigger, take the magazine out. And, on a modern gun, a modern Glock where you kind of palm it and pull the slide backwards like that, that's what you want to do here. And there's I don't know how to explain this, but there's a sweet spot where the barrel will rotate. Right now I'm turning the barrel, but it doesn't rotate. We want that barrel to rotate. And I'll show you what it's doing there. See how that turned? Now this will slide right off like so. So what it's doing is, there's a little lug. Let me get the barrel out. This one's a little bit stickier.
If you pull it up a little bit into the frame.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's try to get this barrel out. It's kind of Jenga-esque. 100-year-old gun, so it's to be expected. But what it's doing is it's rotating the barrel to lock into these grooves. So you'll see the grooves on the barrel, and you're rotating it to mate up with that. That's what the rotating is about, but it's easier to, this little barrel is hard to get out of this gun for some reason. You just have to get it just right and it'll drop out. Not sure why. Come on.
This is the money. We're going to get a hammer.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know why this gun does this. There we go. All right. So there's the barrel. Little teeny tiny one. But it rotates into place and locks into those lugs like that. So what we're doing is we're rotating it off of those lugs so that it'll slide out. And then when you go to put it back, it goes in this orientation and then locks in place like so. So that's what the rotating of the barrel does. But you have to pull the slide back a little bit to get it to turn. So here's your slide. Now you'll notice here that what we're dealing with is a striker fired gun. This isn't the doesn't have a hammer the same way the next one, the 08, is a little bit different. And I'll show you in the guts of this. But this is your little guide pin for this hammer spring. And I took this gun completely apart when I got it and cleaned it all out. You'll notice that there's a serial number. If you're buying one of these and you're really concerned, there's a serial number right here inside the frame, and you're going to want to make sure that matches this serial number. So those two pieces would match. Those are the only two serialized parts on this gun that I could find. So if you're gonna buy one and you care about authenticity, I would match those two serial numbers up. So anyway, that's what the inside of this thing looks like. I'm not going to drift these pins out. I did that prior, cleaned it all up, oiled it, and put it back together. But I don't think we have the time tonight for me to go about doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the grips off and show you that.
Hey, just a quick thing, Scott. I think you got the 0803 designations backwards.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, the vest pocket versus the pocket hammerless. This is the vest pocket. I don't recall which one, the egg or the chicken came first. But
it's the opposite of what you've been saying.
Yeah, oh, of course it is.
Which is easy to get screwed up.
Yeah. So these little stalks just come right off. These are both in really good shape. But that's what the inside of it looks like. It's a little tiny gun. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back.
There's no hammer spring because it's striker.
Yeah, it's a striker fired. Versus the, you'll see in the pocket hammerless, it's not really hammerless because there is a hammer inside the gun. It's just hidden. I'll show you that to you. Let me put these back on. And be careful with these old grips. I mean, they remanufacture them, but I think these were made out of gutta percha or Bakelite or something. They can get very, very brittle. So be gentle with them putting them back on the gun because they will crack. And you can get replacements, but they're not the same. They have kind of a plasticky feel, and they're not as well fitted to the gun as the old ones were. So here we're going to take our little pin, our guide pin and spring, slide it back down. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let me get that striker out. How did that get stuck? Okay. So I can show you that thing. There's your firing pin. This spring goes down through the back of it like that. That's the whole assembly right there. So this just drops in like so. Spring goes in behind it. And when you're taking this apart, kind of cover the back of the slide with the palm of your hand because this little spring will pop out if you're not careful with it. So here, this is our recoil spring and guide rod go back into the gun this way. I'm going to put my barrel in. These are really fairly simple little guns to take apart once you figure out the right way to do it. This has to go in at such a steep angle that it takes a little bit of finagling to get it to drop right in. But ergonomically, these are neat little guns. They fit your hand surprisingly well for as small as they are. But you got to be careful with them because the tendency is to put your hand in front of the barrel. Let me get this thing in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I know 25 ACP isn't that powerful of a cartridge, but I'm not going to want to shoot myself with it. There's an old joke that, don't use 25 ACP for personal protection because eventually the person you shot's going to realize that they've been shot and be pretty angry about it. Anyway, I would not recommend using 25 ACP for personal protection. I think a 22 long rifle has more muzzle velocity. I could be wrong, but okay. Why is this little barrel always is a little bit troublesome for me? Come on, little barrel. Tab. This thing is pain. This little barrel. Why is it wedged in there now? There we go. Notice I'm not hitting it with the brass side. I'm just tapping it with the plastic side because I don't want to leave marks. So figure out how to get this little dog in there without Maybe I'll put a little bit of grease on the front of it too, just. So I saw that we have something different going on the 8th. Was that a different panel or something?
Yeah. Deviant Olem is coming to visit.
Oh, nice. Let's see if we can get this to go in there. I tell you, I used to have one of these, a Spanish ruby pistol. It's the exact same design. Never had this problem with it. I don't know what the issue is, but it's this steep angle. There we go, which this barrel has to go in. So
I do want to commend you for trying to distract us all from the fact that you couldn't get the gun back.
Oh well, yeah. I'm just trying to fill dead air. It's obvious that I'm struggling. It's obvious that I'm struggling. So
yeah, on June 8th, we do indeed have a special guest who's going to be taking over your slot.
Okay.
If you don't know who Deviant Olem is, I recommend Googling it. Very knowledgeable, very popular YouTube personality, amongst other things. Is going to come and talk to us about all things Deviant Olem.
All right.
Lock picking and personal protection and security and things like that. I imagine it'll be a far-reaching and ranging conversation. So
neat. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You
don't
have to put a hammer to a gun that Tuesday.
All right. Well, I might anyway. So now when I make these two pieces together, I'm going to take this recoil spring and put it in that little notch, a little cutout for it like that. And then I'm going to push it all the way back. And I'm going to have to compress this again and rotate this barrel like that. So now it's back together. That's all there is to field stripping and cleaning one of these things. But that's the little Colt vest pocket.
So we still don't know why that barrel's fluted, do we?
Nope, no idea. I have no idea what the advantage to fluting that barrel would be. Maybe to tame some of that harsh recoil of the 25 ACP. I don't know.
And it requires small hands, otherwise you take your finger off as you shoot it.
Yeah, that's the thing. With your finger out of the trigger well, your finger's almost extended, at least mine is, and some people I'm sure extended out over the end of the gun. And then when you go to shoot it, you almost have to teacup it because up here your thumb's extending past the barrel. So it's kind of an interesting little gun to shoot. Of course, I'm not, it's not like you're going to go shoot competitions with it, but it's just something to be mindful of. Now, this is the Pocket Hammerless, and this is truly a gorgeous gun. I really appreciate John loaning it to me. I've been keeping an eye out for one of these, and I want to find one in really good shape, or one that's in really bad shape that I can re-blue and get. But I don't want to have to sand too much metal off of it. But as you can see, this is very similar to the vest pocket. We have the grip safety back here that once again appears in the 1911. And this is our little slide safety right there. So that locks the slide. And then you can also use it to lock the slide open up here. There's a little notch in the frame up there. So we're starting to get kind of closer and closer to the 1911 design with this. But you'll notice there's no hammer back here, which is nice because you get the trigger of a hammer fired gun, but the hammer is internal, so you don't have the snag problem that you get with some guns. So and this thing is just in incredible condition. I think somebody dated it for us at 1908, so it's a very, very old gun. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take it apart. And it kind of goes the same way, except Colt this time on this one put a little arrow and a line right here. And so what that's telling you is you have to pull this slide back. I'll show you what it. So you're going to pull your slide back to where that line is, and that's how you know where to rotate the barrel. So kind of right in there. You kind of have to play around a little bit with the spring tension to get it. There we go. See how it turns? Now, it should come right off like that. Your guide rod and recoil spring. And this one has a barrel bushing like a 1911 does. So this rotates out of your way. Let's see.
Up into frame.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This one does. I'm getting it confused with the talker off that I was working on earlier. Jeez, what's going on here? So anyway, that barrel just slides out. But you can see once again, we have these ridges that correspond to these ridges in the frame. So we're rotating this barrel to lock into those ridges like so. That's what the purpose of it is. So it's locked in there. I don't know when they stopped using that system. I know guns were made up into the 30s with it. But I haven't seen that system in years. But if you'll look, here's your hammer right there. So if I pull the trigger, slide comes back, cocks that hammer. There's your hammer. So it's a little bit different than the vest pocket, but it's fairly similar. So from here, there's not a lot else you could take apart on one of these without getting in over your head on the frame. And I'm not going to drift out the roll pins on John's gun. There's no reason to do it today. Nothing is broken, and I don't want to mess around with 100-year-old springs and sears unless I have to. So I'm going to go ahead and take the grips off and show you the insides. But this shoots the 32 ACP. And the ergonomics of this gun are really nice. It's very thin and just feels really good in your hand, and it's all steel. So it's got some weight to it, and which also means that there's virtually no recoil. These things are really teddy bears to shoot. They're not real snappy. I wish it were in a heftier caliber. I'd love to carry a gun with this profile, but it's just not practical for personal defense in my book. Neither is 380, but if that's what you got, that's what you got. 380 is, probably at the very extreme low end of personal protection calibers. I don't know how 32 ACP and 380 stack up against each other, but I would guess that 380 is a little punchier. So why is this coming off? There we go. Screw out. Yeah, isn't this the gun that Patton carried? Wasn't that what we were talking about earlier?
It is the rumor.
Yeah.
One of the guns in addition to his single action armies.
Yeah. Yeah, this gun would look great with stag grips on it. And I think you could order this gun from the factory with stag grips, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was one option.
The one I got came with faux mother of pearl grips. It was a real done up Saturday Night Special looking gun.
Yeah.
I ordered the replacement. They're not Bakelite, but whatever polymer that people are
right.
Nowadays. Because those grips all by themselves are worth a fortune.
Yeah. Yep. So this one is not wanting to come off real easy.
I was telling you they're worth a fortune, so be careful.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah. I'm just applying a little upward pressure on it. Yeah. No, I don't whack on these old grips like this, because these things, like you say, if you can, well, the originals are out there, but yeah, you're going to pay dearly for them. On some of the stuff like this, I'll take the grips off and just buy the aftermarket ones and run it that way if I'm going to shoot the gun a lot, and then put the original grips back on if I go to sell or trade the gun, just to keep them in good shape. This thing,
I call that generally good advice for any old gun.
Yeah, especially old grips or old stocks keep so much character that it's I don't want to damage them. I don't want to make it worse. So anyway, so here, if you remember the Tokroff we talked about a couple of weeks ago, it's using that same type of trigger and spring in there. I don't know if that, see, you're pressing on the trigger and it's pushing back, which then drops the sear. Don't want to. There you go. So that's the pocket hammerless. It's funny that they call it hammerless because it's got a hammer. You can see it right there. But anyway, it's a very similar gun to this one, but there are some slight design changes in it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. Any questions about either of these two?
There wasn't a question yet. Usually when we start asking for questions, they'll start rolling in. But there was a comment, direct message to me about the fluting on that barrel. Potentially something to grab on to rotate the barrel, because that's such a small barrel to try and
it could well be that. Yeah, it could well be maybe for somebody wearing gloves, the ability to get some purchase on it while wearing gloves. It's I had that other Spanish ruby copy of this gun, and it had them as well, but I think that was because they just direct copied everything. Yeah, push. That screwdriver's too big. Knurl that up. Colt was smart and put these little brass escutcheons in here to keep you from cracking these but I'm sure you could if you put enough juice on it. All right. There we go. Now this is just the same as, very similar to the vest pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and put my barrel back in.
As you're doing that, are either of these John Moses Browning designs?
I believe they both are. I think these are both John Moses Browning guns. And that's what he took it to. He took the design for the vest pocket to FN because Colt wasn't interested in it, and then Colt saw that they were making money and ended up buying it.
Up in the frame. We can't see.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this barrel turned. These are always fun to take apart and put together. So guide that in there. It goes in that slot. Oops, come on. So now I got to rotate this around. There we go. Okay. There we go. See, this one will fire with the magazine out.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the first time he got it back on one try.
Anyway, that's that gun. But you can see the similarities between the two. This one doesn't have the, I don't know, yeah, this one's blued on the grip safety and the trigger and the slide lock. This one is color case hardened, so that's another difference. The prancing horse is right up here. People, John, when he got this gun, said he didn't know if that had been sanded or because the prancing horse isn't really that deep. But looking at Colts, I've never seen one that's super crisp and 100% the same depth all the way around. You'll see here the tail is a little bit shallower than the rest of the body. So sometimes when people refinish these guns, they just ruin this prancing horse. And they use that as an indicator that the gun had been refinished. But this one looks normal. It looks right to me. Most Colts kind of have a faded roll mark in them. They weren't done for beauty. It was just an identifier. So I don't think Colt cared that much. Plus, it was struck with a with a hammer and a punch. So getting it to strike evenly would have been quite the chore. So anyway, and yeah, this you notice too on this gun and some of the 1911s, the original magazines are partially blued. On the 1911 ones, it's just about half the mag. If you find those magazines, grab them. They're worth quite a bit of money to the collectors. The two-tone blued magazines for the 1911s, but this one's got a little bit of bluing on the top too. And I think that was just so that it didn't show, the top of the gun was blued inside and out, just an aesthetics thing. Let's see here. I'll lock that open. All right. So that was pretty quick on those two guns. They're pretty straightforward once you get the trick of rotating that barrel and getting those lugs to rotate out of the frame. But yeah, no questions?
No, there is nothing else as of right now.
All right. Well, that was quick and dirty.
Get out of it early, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to add to these short of taking it completely apart, but if you do get one and do take it completely apart, don't let it scare you. They're not that horrible. And there are videos and written instructions on the internet. I have a really good book that goes through the reassembly sequence on these two guns. This one had rust inside the slide, so I didn't know how, and it looked pretty dry, so I didn't know how bad it was. So I just took it completely apart and cleaned it and re-oiled it. If I had just purchased this gun, I don't think I would, unless it were giving me problems, because it's so pristine that I would worry about, scratching it or damaging it in some way. So this gun could use a little bit of refinishing, but I'm not going to do it. It has some, I don't know if you can see it, but there's kind of like a pattern worn into it where I think it sat in a holster for a long time and moisture got in there and kind of embossed the pattern a little bit, the fabric pattern onto the frame of the gun. So be careful what you store your guns in. You don't want to leave them in foam or fabric like that. Leather will also damage them if it's stored in a moist environment for an extended period of time. The only way I know to fix that would be to sand that out, but I have my big Colt roll mark up here, so it doesn't make any sense to me to sand in that area. Here would be fairly easy to remove, but if I did that, then I'd have to re-blue it. So I'm just going to leave it as it is and run it. It functions just fine. So, and they're not worth a whole lot of money. They're going up in value. These are getting harder. These are $700-800 now. They didn't used to be nearly that expensive. These are probably going to run you about $300 for a decent example of one. I'm sure you can find them cheaper and some pristine ones for more, but that's kind of ballpark for a shooter. And,
mine, I think was maybe $200, but
yeah,
that patterning that you're talking about, mine's damn near brown from it.
So yeah. I don't think people realize that storing guns, storing them in a gun safe with a desiccant pack or something like that is so much better than leather or foam or a fabric.
I'm reasonably certain that mine was stored in somebody's pocket.
Probably stuffed in a sock in a sock drawer somewhere for 30 years. You see a lot of old beater H&R revolvers like that, people's little nightstand guns. So
there's one more comment. I'm going to go ahead and preempt Kyle.
Okay.
The two-tone mags have tempered feed tips. They didn't want to alter the temper by bluing. So.
Oh, okay.
And by tips, he means lips.
Lips.
I'm sorry, lips, not tips. You know what I meant. Yeah. Everybody on the call knew what I meant. Even you did.
Yeah. So if you don't know, feed lips are this top part of the magazine right here. All right. Well, that's good information. I did not know that. I just know that those blued magazines are really sought after. People really like them. And I've seen them go for $100 when you can just buy a regular off the shelf 1911 mag for $20. So if you see them, grab them. I'm sure there are fakes out there, though. I'm sure that people have faked it, so be careful.
Well, Kyle, we got any other questions? I'm looking through the various places where they might exist, and I'm not seeing anything obvious.
Nope. Lonnie, did I miss anything?
Nope. I looked both at the SDL and the chat. I don't see anything.
All right. Well, in that case, I think we're ready to go ahead and close it out.
All right.
Scott, thanks again. It's always great when you work on guns that I own.
Yeah.
Because that means that I have something to go back to when I screw something up. So
yeah, they're neat little guns. I love shooting this thing. It's so much fun.